Hi everyone, this is Kalyan Kumar and welcome once again to Chemistry Universe. With this video, we'll be starting a new series on the lesson Isomerism. So we'll learn what isomers are, we'll find out what are the various types of isomers, how do we classify them, and lots of stuff in the future videos that are about to come. In this lesson, in this particular video in fact, we are going to focus on the definition of isomers, any misconceptions associated with that definition, as well as what are the various classifications, how can we classify the isomers in different categories, and along with that we'll also study something called degree of unsaturation. Now, degree of unsaturation is something which is very important when it comes to at least isomers. In fact, it is also useful in doing many questions or to start a particular question, and we'll learn more about that as the time comes. So let's begin this video with understanding what are isomers. So here we go, part 1. So what is isomerism? What are isomers? The first thing is different compounds having the same molecular formula are called isomers. Now, many students, when they graduate from class 10th and come into class 11th, and when they are taught this topic, when you ask them the very first question, what are isomers? The standard definition is they are compounds with the same molecular formula and different structural formula. Now that is what they've been taught so far. Now we're going to refine it, because now we are going into a very higher level of isomerism. So here we are going to say it is not necessary that their structures have to be different. The structures can also be same and still two molecules can be called as isomers. And more of that when the time comes. But as of now, just understand that if it were possible for me to list down all the properties of the two compounds, all properties, melting point, boiling point, solubility, everything that you can think of. And let's assume that if it is possible, and if I list down all the properties of the two molecules, their energy, everything, and even if one of them is different, one out of million and millions of properties of the two compounds, if it is different, they are called isomers. That's it. That's as simple as that. If one thing is different, they are isomers. But remember, they have to be real in the first place. Now, do not confuse isomers with resonating structures. Because even in resonating structures, if you notice, we have difference in energy. So that could be one of the properties you can say. But remember, resonating structures are hypothetical. They're not real. Isomers are real. They actually exist. So if two molecules that exist, and out of all the properties that I can list for them, even if one property is different, they are isomers. Of course, they have to have the same molecular formula. So it's like two different people having the same name. Even if they were twins, their fingerprints are going to be different. So if we list down all the properties, okay, they speak in the same voice, the hairstyle looks the same, everything looks the same, their fingerprints yet will be different. So some properties different, they are isomers. So two people with the same name, they are two different individuals. Having the same name is just a coincidence. So it's like two different molecules, they have nothing to do with each other. They just share the same molecular formula. We can call them as isomers. And they are generally of two types. If the compounds differ in their properties due to the difference in structural features, they are called structural isomers, while if the compounds differ in their properties due to the difference in the arrangement of atoms in space, they are called stereoisomers. This is what you need to understand. Remember the first definition I told you when a student comes to class 11th? They say isomers are those compounds which have the same molecular formula but different structural formula, different structures. No. That is one category. They are called structural isomers. So now the question comes, what do you mean by structure? Now there's a lot of debate on that. Some people call structure as simply the, understanding which atom is attached to which atom. and by how many bonds is it attached. That is structure. Some people include shape. Some people call the shape as geometry, and there are lots of debate on that. But for our convenience, let's assume structure is basically that feature of a molecule which tells you which atom is attached with which atom, and it is attached with how many bonds. Say for example, somebody says, what is the structure of CH4? You simply draw one carbon and draw 4 hydrogens with single bonds. You don't have to show them as a tetrahedron. That's a shape. So for our convenience, we will say structure is simply C attached to 4H with single bond. So any difference in structural arrangement, that means which atom is attached to which atom by how many bonds, if that differs in the two molecules, they are called structural isomers. But sometimes structure remains the same. But the orientation of the groups in space becomes different. Say for example, X is attached to Y is attached to Z, Z is attached to A. And both compounds have the same arrangement. But in one case, let's say the X is here and the A is here. In another case, the X is here and the A is here. There is a difference in space. The distance is different. If the distance is different, there will be some properties which will be different. At least the energy will be different. And these will be called stereoisomers. So isomers are categorized into two categories, and they are structural and stereoisomers. Remember, structural are the ones in which the basic structure, arrangement of atoms is different. Stereo are the ones in which the orientation in space is different. Now, structural come in 6 varieties. There are 6 varieties of structural that we have to study. One is called chain isomers. Then you have positional isomers. Then you have functional isomers. Then you have metamers. Then you have ring chain isomers. Then you have tautomers. While stereo comes in 2 varieties, configurational isomers and conformational isomers. And configurational themselves come into 2 varieties. They are geometrical and optical isomers. Alright, so this is the basic classification of isomers. We'll deal with each of them separately in the next video. But right now we need to go into another property that's called degree of unsaturation. Sometimes known as DOU, sometimes some people call it DU. So what is degree of unsaturation? Degree of unsaturation is a very, very important concept, used very often in solving questions. Suppose I give you a formula of a compound C6H6, C2H6, C2H4, C4H10. I give you a formula and I ask you to make the structure. The typical way of making the structure would be, okay, you at least draw the number of carbons as given in the formula. 6 carbons, draw 6 carbons. But the problem is, if I were to give you the formula C6H6, many of you will say C6H6 is benzene. Wrong. Benzene structure is one of the structures of C6H6. But C6H6 can have any number of structures. Many structures in fact. Of course finite, but many number of structures. So how do we know how to draw C6H6? Suppose there's a child who doesn't even know what benzene looks like. So what is he going to do? Simple. Calculate DU. Degree of unsaturation. This tells you the number of pi bonds plus the number of rings that are there in the molecule just by looking at the formula. You're given the formula, you can calculate DU. So the moment you know the number of pi bonds plus rings, you'll automatically know, okay, this is the combination that I have. And if it, for example, C6H6, when I calculate in a short while, you'll find its DU is 4. Which means the total number of pi bonds plus total number of rings are 4. Now, how many pi bonds and how many rings? That you cannot predict. But at least that's a start off point, isn't it? You know that I've got so many pi bonds or rings to draw. And if the number of carbon is same, let's take a hydrocarbon. if the number of carbon is same and you have matched the du, the number of hydrogen will automatically be same. For example, if you draw C6H6 with 6 carbon atoms, whether you draw benzene or whether you draw straight chain, doesn't matter. You draw 6 carbon atoms, make sure its du is 4, the hydrogen will automatically be 6. So you don't have to count the number of hydrogen. So that gives you an idea about how to start a problem. Sometimes you look at two compounds and they're asked, are they isomers? Look at the number of carbon atoms in both. Oh, carbon atoms match. Are there any oxygens? Yeah, oxygens match. Nitrogens match. You don't have to count the number of hydrogens in it. Why? Because if the du is 4, if the number of pi bond plus ring, the sum of that is same in both, you know they are isomers. Because it is easy to count carbons, it is easy to count oxygens, nitrogens, halogens even, but difficult to count the hydrogens because hydrogens are so many. And especially in benzene, many people make a mistake. If I say chlorobenzene, you have a chlorine on benzene, they still think there is a hydrogen there. No, the hydrogen has been replaced by a chlorine. So it's a chlorobenzene. So you don't have to bother about all of this. If the carbons match, the nitrogens match, oxygens match, halogens match, phosphorus, all other elements, they match. If the du matches, the two molecules will be isomers. That is how this becomes useful in understanding whether two given molecules are isomers or not. So let's go ahead. So, also known as index of hydrogen deficiency or double bond equivalent. It is the number of hydrogen molecules required to convert a compound into a saturated open chain compound. Now this is a very, very, very important definition. Du is the number of hydrogen molecules that is required to convert a given molecule into an open chain, single, saturated compound. Try and get this, digest this. Du is the number of hydrogen molecules that needs to be added to the given molecule to convert that into an open chain, single, saturated compound. Now, the reason I'm saying this definition is because the concept of number of rings plus number of pi bond is equal to du is only workable for 2D situation. The moment you encounter a 3D molecule, you will not be able to get the du as number of pi bond plus rings because there will be so many different types of rings there that things will become very, very confusing and it won't match. Therefore, the best way to deal with this is that if you look into 3D molecules, if somebody asks you du and if somebody asks you, okay, what does it mean here? It simply means the number of hydrogen molecules that needs to be added to this compound to convert that into an open chain, single, saturated compound. And we'll see some examples now. The third part, du is generally the number of pi bonds plus rings. And there's a formula for that. If a compound has a formula Ca, Hb, Nc, Od and Xe, where C is carbon, H is hydrogen, N is nitrogen, O is oxygen, X is halogen, and A, B, C, D, E are the number of these elements in a compound, then the du is calculated as carbon plus 1, A plus 1 minus half of hydrogen plus halogen minus nitrogen. Remember, oxygen has no role in it. And then let's use this to calculate the du of benzene. Remember I told you C6H6. Now use this formula. So what would be this formula telling you? A plus 1, A is 6 here and minus half. Then of course there is no halogen or anything else. So there's only hydrogen, half of 6. Doesn't this come out to be 4? Now look at the number of pi bonds in benzene plus number of rings. Look at this definition. Since it is a 2D ring, this will work. Number of pi bonds plus number of rings. Can you see it has got 1 ring and 3 pi bonds? 4. So du is 4. And remember, as I said, not workable for 3D fused rings. Now the question may arise, what happens if you have elements other than these? Now, if atoms other than carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen or halogen are present, there is still a formula for that. But here there is a bit of a problem. The problem is, the formula will only work if you know the valency of these elements. Say for example, phosphorus. Now phosphorus generally has valency 3, but not necessary. Remember, it can expand its octet. It can have 4 bonds, it can have 5 bonds. So you would not know how many bonds that has before knowing the structure. But if you know that phosphorus has only 3 bonds, then you can use this formula, the one that I'm about to give you. Sulfur. Sulfur can form 2 bonds, it can form 4 bonds, it can form 6 bonds. So if you have sulfur in a compound and you want to use a formula, you should know beforehand what is the valency of sulfur. Now you might say, well, I don't know. In that case, you won't be able to use this formula. So du is 1 plus half of sigma Ni, and in brackets you have nu I minus 2, and where Ni is the number of atoms, each with valency nu I. Say for example, I'll give you a simple example. Suppose I have CH3NH2. Now as you can see, there are no pi bond or no rings here. So its du should be 0. So if I were to calculate its du, the carbon is 1. So 1 plus 1 minus half. I'm using the earlier formula. Half of number of hydrogens, that is 5. No halogens, minus nitrogen, which is 1. So this is 2. And this is half of 4. Which is 2 minus 2, which is 0. We expect this, right? Now suppose this were CH3PH2. Phosphorus comes in the same family of nitrogen. So I could have used, now you would say, okay, I've got phosphorus, what do? Use this formula. So here you have du equal to 1 plus half of. Remember, it's a sigma. So you have to do Ni nu I minus 2 for each element. So for carbon, remember carbon is 1. Carbon's valency is 4 minus 2 plus. Now I got 5 hydrogens and each hydrogen has a valency of 1 minus 2 plus phosphorus. I got 1 phosphorus and it has a valency of 3. And can you calculate this? So if we calculate this, what does it come out to be? du equals 1 plus half of 4 minus 2 is 2. The next one is minus 1 here, and that is minus 5. The next one is 1 here plus 1, and how much is this? This is 3. 3 minus 5 is minus 2, and this becomes 1 minus 1, which is equal to 0. So this is how you use this formula. But remember, did we not use phosphorus as 1 and its valency is 3? We should know its valency. So if this molecule were given as CH5P, now it would not be possible for us to immediately make out what is the valency of phosphorus. But if you know its valency is 3, then you will be able to calculate this. So now let's check out 3D rings. Now remember, this is a 3D molecule, it's called cubane. It's got 8 carbons at the edges of the cube and it's got 1 hydrogen each. Formula is C8H8. Let's calculate its du with the formula. Formula will work for 3D or 2D. Its meaning would change. In 2D it is number of pi bond plus ring. In 3D it is the number of hydrogen molecules that need to be added. So let's say, can we add 5 hydrogen to make it a straight chain, an open chain, saturated single compound? Okay, so let me add 1 hydrogen here. First, I'm going to break, let us say I break this bond. You can break any bond. I'm breaking this bond. But remember, you got to break the bonds in such a way that you get a single open chain molecule. Next hydrogen that is added breaks, let us say, the top bond. Now you could say that, okay, I can break any bond I want. Remember, your end result has to be a single chain compound. Now I add one more hydrogen, and this time I break this bond. This bond. So that bond gets broken. I add one more H2. Now I'm going to break which bond? I'm going to break, let us say, this bond. Add one more H2 and I break the bottom bond. Can you now see it has become a single chain compound? Single open chain saturated compound. And how many molecules of hydrogen have we added? 5. That is Du. And you might wonder, why do we, when we add H2, why does a bond break? Simple. A carbon-carbon bond breaks and both carbons need one valency and they take 1 H from H2. That is how the bond breaks. Let's take one more system. And this is another system which has the same formula of benzene, by the way. C6H6 can also be this. Can you see that it's got 6 carbon atoms? And each carbon has 1 hydrogen. It's called prismane. And if you use the formula, its Du will be 4, just as benzene. Because it needs 4 H2. I add this H2. Let's break first this bond. Then I add one more H2. Then I break this bond. Add one more H2. Now I'm not going to break this bond. I need one single compound, okay? So I'm going to break this bond. Add one more H2. Now you know what I need to get a single one. I can break this bond or this bond, whichever bond. So I add one H2. Let's say I break this bond and I get a single molecule open chain saturated compound. So that is the basic classification of isomers, and that is the definition of Du, and this is how Du can be used. Look at two compounds, count the number of carbon atoms you have, that is easy to count. Count the number of oxygens and nitrogens and phosphoruses and all other elements which are easy to look at because there will be always few. Look at the Du if you are given the structure, look at the Du. If the Du is same, hydrogen will match. Or you are given a formula, from the formula you can calculate Du. This really helps in identifying isomers, and not only that, it helps you do questions. You can start off a question. You're given a question says, a compound of molecular formula so and so. You know something is there. You know the Du. You know that the number of pi bond plus ring is this one. And remember, whenever the number of pi bond plus ring, Du, is 4, and I'm not looking into 3D. Whenever the Du is 4 or more than 4, there is a very good possibility it has got benzene ring. Especially if the number of carbons is less. So with that, we come to the end of this video. I hope this video was able to give you a fair idea about what isomers are. In the next video, we're going to look at the various types of structural isomers. So till then, this is Kalyan Kumar signing off. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye and thank you for watching.